Impact segment tonight. Let's bring in Charles Krauthammer standing by in Washington. So a lot of verbiage today, lots of chatting back and forth. What was the most important thing you heard?
Well, the most important thing I think today is that the Gorsuch hearings, which should have been a triumphant moment for the Trump administration, that's the best decision he made. That's the one that has the widest support and showed really good judgment, got buried in the other hearings. They were sort of completely overshadowed, and in part, not entirely, but in part because of that tweet that Trump had to put out about the wiretap. And I think that's a self-inflicted wound that is symbolic of how, by many of his idiosyncrasies, he has stepped all over his presidency, particularly the good things he's done and the program he's now advancing. Also lost in the shuffle is the fact that we are just a few days away from a crucial vote on Obamacare repeal that Trump brought up at the rally in Louisville. But it's almost an afterthought. It should be at the forefront. This is a truly historic event if it goes through. Trump is focused on it. You saw him talk about Rand Paul as a kind of a shot across the bow because Rand has been one of the biggest opponents to Trump's revision. But it shows you how the static generated by Trump's, shall we say, eccentricities are getting in the way of what could otherwise be a very forceful and effective presidency.
It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the week plays out because, number one, the Gorsuch hearing was buried because nothing really happened. I mean, it was just an opening statement, and there was no questioning. That'll come tomorrow, I think, and then there'll be more exposure. Number two, the president didn't mention any of the surveillance stuff tonight in the speech that I heard. Right? He stayed away from that, right?
Well, he doesn't want to get dragged into this. He already was tweeting in the middle of the hearings, which is an extremely odd event where a president injects himself into an ongoing hearing on the Hill, which creates all kinds of ricochets that are unintended. So he was trying to get into it, but the rally was not the place to do it.
No, but I think that going to your point that maybe he understands that all of this crazy controversy is hurting his agenda. So I was looking for that tonight, and it looked like, you know, they probably just, because normally he would address something that happened like that and say, oh, these pinheads, they're doing this, that, and the other, fake news, nothing really happened. But he stayed away from it all and stayed on policy. So maybe he's changing his style a little bit. Now,
I doubt it.
Okay, but, you know, you're not a fan of his. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and saying that maybe, and that's a key word, he is.
Well, you know, in order to comment on somebody, you don't really have to be a fan.
No, but you spin him negative a lot.
When I commented 8 years about Obama, I never heard you say, well, that's because you're not a fan.
I told you that you weren't a fan of him a couple of times. But you spin Trump negative most of the time, and you know you do. And that's, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You're a commentator. You're paid for your honest opinion. I have never criticized you in that way. But the truth is you spin Trump negative.
Do you disagree that what he did with that tweet?
No, I said in the talking points. Did you hear me?
Disaster. Yeah, and what I heard you say was, I think the way that you put it was, it'd be better if he stuck within the facts.
Yeah.
Which is a euphemistic way of saying, stop making stuff up. Well, which is how I would put it.
That's a negative spin. You just prove my point.
That's exactly how I would say it.
You always spin it negative. I say in a fair and balanced way, hey, if you want to get your stuff passed, all right, stay within the facts. Don't give your enemies hand grenades. So that, I'm fair and balanced. You spin them negative. And that, you know, and we're both highly paid. All right, now let's get on to the final thing of the leakers. The leakers.
That could be the only thing we have in common.
I'm not even going to go. You're much smarter than I am. I've seeded that for years. The leakers.
Well, you told us.
Were you satisfied with what we heard about the leakers? If the FBI doesn't get them, I'm going to go wild. They need to be tracked down.
As always, the star of the show, Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy is the one guy who honed in on this. And the fact, the one statement he made that people really didn't see is, we've had all this incredible speculation about the crimes and the collusion and all this, for which there is as yet zero evidence. The only crime we know about, the only thing we know for sure, which was a felony, is the unmasking of Flynn and the leaking of his name. That we know actually happened and actually is a very bad thing.
I got to run, but I want you to make a prediction for us. Do you believe the FBI is going to arrest leakers?
I don't know if they're going to arrest leakers. I think they are going to pursue it. They have to.
They have to. And but if they can't get them, you know, they said 20. There were 20 people. If they can't get them, it doesn't bode well for the country. Charles,
we went 40 years before finding out who was the Watergate leaker. It's not that easy.
This one's a little easier. Directly ahead, Brit Hume on an intriguing question. Should